Streets will never forget players. These are the type of players who didn't reach the heights of the greats, but still set the Premier League alight. Whether it be through their skills, the way they looked, or how they were absolutely world-class one season, and then completely disappeared. For example, Dimitri Payet. This man hit all the criteria. After joining West Ham from Marseille in 2015, he absolutely dazzled the league. And this guy just looked like a superstar from day one. Whether it be his iconic mohawk or the Nike Mercurial boots, everything about Dimitri Payet was just electric. I promise you, West Ham United will never see a player like him ever again. He scored 12 goals and got 15 assists in his first season for the Hammers, helping them to a 7th place finish in the Premier League in their final season at Upton Park. The composure he had in front of goal was immaculate, but even better than that was his free kicks. Never before have I seen a player more inevitable from a free kick. At one stage it felt like he was scoring a free kick every week, and this one in particular against Crystal Palace could never be forgotten. These guys had practically their entire starting 11 in the wall. He lifted it about 5 miles into the sky, just for it to nestle into the top right hand corner. It was simply majestic. He spent most of his second season begging to go back to Marseille. However, he still pulled off a few magic moments, such as this unbelievable assist against Watford. Honestly, if Neymar did that, I'd be ejaculating all over the screen. This is perfect football. And then that time he dribbled past about 20 Middlesbrough players to score this impeccable goal. In January he left the club for Marseille, but the streets will never forget Dimitri Payet at West Ham. But hopefully for his sake, they forget about what he's been up to in Brazil. Another streets will never forget icon is Yannick Bolasie. If you looked at his stats, you'd be forgiven for thinking he's an absolute bum. But in reality, he was one of the most chaotic footballers the Premier League has ever seen. Every defender who ever came up against him would be having nightmares for the next 16 business days. Honestly, it would just make me laugh watching this guy play football. Cause why is he lifting his leg up here? For what reason? He'd just go out on the football pitch to have fun. It was so good to watch. The amount of times he'd just leave a player on the floor was crazy. And like, who even thinks to do this? This man touched the floor face to face with a defender and then got past him. And I can't lie, I'd be bamboozled too, man, cause that's just bizarre. And then this flick against Tottenham. Sheesh! This belongs in a flippin' museum. He's got to be the most African baller I've ever seen, bruv. Cause who else do you see dancing whilst dribbling? And the amount of times he'd pull off a skill move and follow it up with the most diabolical shot of all time was just hilarious. He might be the funniest footballer of all time. After 3 years in the Premier League with Crystal Palace, he moved on to Everton for £25 million. But after a cruciate ligament tear early on, he was never able to establish himself again in the Premier League. But this man is unforgettable in Premier League folklore. I can't do a Streets Won't Forget video without talking about Mr. Streets Will Never Forget himself, Adel Taarabt. This man was a technician of the highest proportions. He was a pure streets baller who put QPR on the map and basically invented the nutmeg. Yes, it existed before him, but if he placed a patent on nutmegs, no one could question him. I've never seen a footballer with such tantalizing close control before. Absolutely no player was safe going head to head with him. This guy was silky, smooth, orgasmic, and simply arousing to watch play football. He had every defender he faced looking like prime Bonnie Blue with their legs wide open, bruv. I promise you, having to defend a 1v1 against him was peak. He honestly had the talent to make it to the very top, but made the mistake of signing for Tottenham rather than Arsenal when he was 17. And that's not just me saying that, he said it himself. He spent the bulk of his career at QPR and then Benfica, but the streets will never forget the flair and technique this man possessed in his prime. Hey yo, you absolute bozo! Why haven't you liked the video yet? Make sure to absolutely bukkake that like button and subscribe whilst you're at it. Thank you. Now it's time to talk about some strikers. And firstly, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Michu. This man had the whole shebang. The celebration, the haircut, the pure vibes. He had everything. This guy was so good, he's Erling Haaland's idol. He joined the Premier League and scored goal after goal after goal, including 2 away at Arsenal in a famous win. He also scored in the League Cup final, taking Swansea to their first ever trophy. He's truly the one season wonder of one season wonders, because after this season, he was absolutely whack. But the streets will never forget his incredible 2012-13 season. That's not it for Swansea strikers though. After Michu, we got Wilfred Bonney. And let's put football to the side for a second. The most memorable thing about this guy has to be his chant.
Come on, Wilfred Bonney, score some goal for Swansea. We go wide, 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 wide.
This guy came in as Michu fell off and bullied Premier League defences for a year and a half at Swansea, scoring 26 goals before Man City decided to sign him. Obviously he flopped at City, but for 18 months he was an absolute lethal bagsman who the streets could never forget. And then the final Swansea striker I have to mention is Bafétimbi Gomis. And this man has to be in this video for the celebration alone. Every time this guy scored, it looked like he'd been possessed by some next spirits. Look at his eyes. But honestly, this celebration was so iconic that I forgot how meaty his stats were. This bozo only got 13 goals in 2 seasons. I thought he got like 25 or something. But nah, in his second season he scored in the first 4 games of the season and was playing like prime Drogba, just for him to score only 2 more goals for the rest of the season. But yeah, like I say, I had to mention him for that celebration alone. On the topic of strikers, I also have to talk about Papis Cisse. Back in January 2012, he joined Newcastle from Freiburg and went absolutely crazy, scoring 13 goals in 14 games, including this absolute screamer away to Chelsea, one of the best goals in Premier League history, and his link up with Demba Ba was scary. Between them, they scored 50 goals in 18 months for Newcastle and have to be one of the best link ups the Prem has seen, especially for a non-Big Six club. They really were the OG Whistling and Burmo. Cisse fell off big time after his first 6 months in the Premier League, but the streets will never forget how good he was in his first season. And he went on to be decent a few years later as well, bagging 11 goals in 22 games in the 2014-15 season. Another Newcastle player the streets will never forget is Alan Saint-Maximin.
My darling, you and a headband, you are different gravy.
This guy is the epitome of a streets will never forget player. He was eccentric, exciting, and showed so much personality on and off the field. I honestly loved watching this guy play. He had phantasmagorical dribbling, great technique, and unique celebrations. And I could never forget this outrageous volley he scored against Wolves. Like a few players on this list, his stats weren't great, but what you got with Saint-Maximin was pure vibes. That kind of excitement is what football is truly all about. And one final Newcastle player is Hatem Ben Arfa. Along with Adel Taarabt, this guy is one of the OG streets will never forget ballers. Ben Arfa dribbled like Lionel Messi with the output of Joshua Zirkzee. He used to just glide in between players with ease. You could put 2, 3, 4 players on him and he'd still find a way through. And his goal against Bolton was simply sensational, where he picked up the ball in his own half, ending one defender's life before making another one eat grass, and then skipping through the final 2 defenders and slotting home. For that alone, he deserves his place in this video. But besides that, he was a certified baller. And like many of the other players in this video, his natural ability probably deserved a much more successful career, but his talent won't ever be forgotten. Going back to Crystal Palace, another player the streets will never forget is Wilfried Zaha. Now recently he posted on his story that he doesn't want to be called a streets will never forget baller, which was actually my inspiration for this video, just so that I can call him a streets will never forget baller. But to be fair, he's kinda right, cause most of the players on this list had 1 or 2 seasons that they're remembered for, whereas Zaha was a baller and Crystal Palace's most important player for 9 seasons straight in the Premier League, getting 69 goals. But in every other aspect, he fits the quota. He was flashy, played for a mid-table club and had some great celebrations. His stats are the best and most consistent on this list as well, getting 10 or more goals and assists in 6 different seasons in the league. And all of the big 6 held daggers by this guy at some point. But I'll tell you one thing, the streets of South London will definitely never forget him. The final striker I have to mention is Graziano Pella. I had to get at least one player from the OG Southampton team in here. Sadio Mane and Virgil van Dijk became Premier League legends at Liverpool, whilst Tadic took the Champions League by storm at Ajax. Whereas Pella spent 2 good seasons in the Premier League before going off to China. To be honest, the main thing that caught my attention about him was how similar his name was to Pele. But for 2 seasons, this guy was a bagsman. Or at least it seemed like it on Match of the Day when I was 10 years old, cause his stats aren't actually anything special when you realise guys like Charlie Austin were bagging 18 goals in the league at the same time. But for this incredible bicycle kick alone, he's earned his place in this conversation. And this splendid goal against Liverpool as well. I don't know about you, but when I think of prime Southampton, this guy is one of the first players who comes to mind. And the last player I have is Andre Arshavin. Most of the players in this list played for mid-table clubs, so this one's a bit controversial given he played for Arsenal. But Arshavin just had that vibe as well of a player who just had so much talent but wasn't the most consistent, and is remembered more for a few individual moments, such as his 4 goals in 1 game at Anfield in a crazy 4-4 draw, or his winning goal against Barcelona, and this beautiful goal against Blackburn. Just like Zaha, I feel like he might be a bit too good for streets will never forget, and he played for a big club, so it's not really the same vibe. But at worst, the streets will never forget his 4 goals at Anfield, so I think he's worth a mention. If you think I missed anyone, let me know in the comments down below. And what current players do you think will be streets will never forget players in the future? A few players that come to my mind are Adama Traore, specifically against Manchester City back in the 2019-20 season, Prime Matoma in the 22-23 season, Chris Wood from the season just gone, and Jean-Philippe Mateta. That guy has everything you could ever need to be a streets will never forget player. The look, the celebration, the goals. That Viscera and Burmo duo at Brentford deserve a mention as well. They got 39 goals between them last season. That's crazy for any club, let alone a team at the table. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed, and follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. In a bit, G.